The following is a presentation from PokerStars.com. Previously on the big game, Scott Seiver got lucky with Dolly Parton against Daniel.
Check out.
I had 9-5.
Twice in a row.
That 9-5 been lucky for you.
And like a supermodel, Scott was constantly striking his signature pose.
It really is the oddest thing, dude. You're going to see it on TV, and you're going to be like, I'm changing it up.
But for our loose cannon, his spirits were up, though his chip stack was down.
Loose cannon time.
Can he make a comeback against this table full of pros? Find out tonight on the big game.
Now we have some action here. You like this?
I love it. I love it.
This is the PokerStars.com big game.
Welcome once again to Las Vegas. Alongside Joe Stapleton, I'm Chris Rose, where tonight there's almost $1 million on the table as play continues in our state-of-the-art poker room.
Hardened cash game vet Todd Brunson has finally cracked a smile. He's up almost $40,000.
Young Scott Seiver is up $250,000 and has over a third of all the money at this table in his stack.
Vanessa Russo is also sitting pretty. She's up over $125,000.
The young Dutchman, Lex Veldhuis, had better start flying soon. He's been in a tailspin and is down $58K.
This is our loose cannon, Aaron Jensen. He's been staked $100,000 to play and has promised his fiance a dream wedding with the profits he plans on winning here tonight. But I wouldn't book the band just yet. He's down over $15K.
And our sixth player is Canadian pro Daniel Negreanu. He's standing by with our Amanda Leatherman.
Daniel, what's going on out there? It seems like this week hasn't been that good for you.
I got screwed on the seat draw. Scott Seiver's on my left, and he never, ever folds. He's always got something. Every time he has a 9 in his hand, some miracle thing happens and he wins. So I really just want to play him again. Maybe I'll play him online or something like that where I get positioned something. I don't know.
So you're saying he's lucky?
No, he's good too. It sucks. Bad combination. Lucky and good. Hate it.
What about the loose cannon? You think he can fight his way back?
I think the loose cannon is about to get frisky. I mean, he doesn't have that much time left, and he was up a little bit, biding his time, but eventually he's going to have to start gambling.
All right, well, maybe you'll get his chips.
I hope so. Can use them.
Quick reminder that each cannon is staked $100,000 and keeps all profits above the initial $100,000. At season's end, the loose cannon who's won the most money earns a North American Poker Tour passport worth $50,000.
That's our leading loose cannon, Nadia Magnus. She walked away with over $63,000 in profits, so Aaron's got some work to do.
Action begins on Lex Veldhuis, who folds. Vanessa Russo, pocket tens.
Over the past few nights, we've seen Vanessa raise her big hands 2.5 times the big blind from early.
Raise.
To 1,000.
Thank you.
Big blind's 400, 2.5 times 400 at that. Yes, that works out, Joe. Thank you.
Ding, ding, ding.
Daniel re-raises to 3,500.
Daniel's got a playable hand, but he's in bad shape to Vanessa's tens.
Scott Seiver, very aggressive this week. Ace-8 on the button, but he folds. So does Todd. And the loose cannon.
What are you sitting with, by the way?
What's that?
What are you sitting with, by the way?
I'm sitting with Corum, a bracelet, black shirt, watch.
I can't, I mean,
She can't see over your stack that you have orange chips.
75. Is that 100?
There's 4 of them. Each one's worth 25. I know you're a math major.
Oh, I'm
You
trying
went
to
to
count.
Duke.
You keep talking.
You went to Duke. You did all that stuff. Here, let me help you. I'll move them around like this. Okay, go ahead. It's all right. I'm just trying to help. Okay. It's about. There's the 100.
All right, dude, you've confused me into calling.
Okay, sounds good.
She calls.
Vanessa knew she wasn't folding, but Daniel's stack size is relevant to the hand.
What?
Set up the cooler.
King 5, Jack. Vanessa checks.
Scott Seiver wasn't kidding about the cooler. Daniel went from being a 3-to-1 dog to being almost a coin flip with his open-ended straight draw.
He bets 4,500, and Vanessa quickly calls.
Daniel's made a semi-bluff, and Vanessa's right to call so far.
Queen of clubs on the turn.
Daniel's just jumped way out in front, but now Vanessa's open-ended as well.
She checks.
Yeah, check.
Daniel checks. Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. This is a dangerous board for both players.
6 of hearts on the river.
Check.
Check, check. And Daniel takes it down.
Queen ball, corner pocket.
Works much better when you use a number that's actually in the game of pool.
What did I say? Queen ball?
Queen ball, corner pocket.
You don't know? Yeah, that's the 12, buddy. The 12? Queen ball?
No, I understand, but
I think Daniel understands too. He made a living at pool as a teenager.
Well, here are the rules of the big game. Each table lasts exactly 150 hands. The action pre-flop is pot limit, then no limit after the flop. Blinds are 2 and 400 with a $100 ante, all of which is paid by the player on the button. Every player begins with at least 100 grand, but can reload all the way up to a $500,000.
Let's try a straddle.
Ah, you beat me to it.
Oh, you want a sleepy?
Yeah.
You sleepy, buddy? Just for you. See how much of a gentleman I am?
Daniel's letting the cannon sleeper straddle, which is essentially a straddle on the button. If action folds around, then it becomes live and your last act pre-flop.
Daniel looking at ace-4 suited.
Okay, I think I screwed your whole plan up already.
see, this is what I said. Like,
Raise.
Sorry. But it was fun that you did that.
No,
Let me ask you a question. Was that fun for you?
It's fine.
Did you enjoy it? But you enjoyed it, having the money out there like a crazy gambler. 800 in the dark. It was fun.
Scott calls, also with ace-4 suited.
spot on Reed for sure.
Todd calls.
Because Daniel raised, Aaron gets to take back his straddle.
What are you doing?
Thank you, Daniel.
He folds. Pocket sixes for Lex. He calls. Vanessa.
40.
Pocket eights.
Things could get pretty interesting here as everyone's got a bona fide hand. Looks like Vanessa's thinking about a squeeze, but I'm not sure how many of these maniacs are actually going to fold.
Raise pot, whatever that is.
So call 12, then 24, 48.
66 more.
66 more.
I got it before you did. What? What? Hey. I counted up before he did. What does that get me?
Vanessa raises to 7,800.
What's the cheesy line? Like that and a buck will get you a cup of coffee, I think is the line, right?
I don't know about coffee, but Vanessa has juiced this pot out of position.
No, it's better by just showing how inane this whole awesome spot is.
Daniel. Take your time calling there, pal.
He was getting about 3 to 1 on his money.
Now Scott.
Now that Daniel's called, Scott's getting 4 to 1 on his money.
66 more.
That's correct, sir.
Scott calls.
As more players call, the pot odds continue to improve. 5 to 1 now for Todd.
Do a hero play right here.
What's that?
He
Pretty
folds.
much exactly what I was going for.
Todd knows he's unlikely to be ahead. Lex with his sixes is certainly getting the right price.
I'll pot.
What are you doing now?
I'm potting. He's pot.
Oh, really?
It puts them all in.
Lex re-raises to nearly 41,000.
Lex is trying to collect any dead money that might be out there, and if he gets called, there's always the chance he'll win the hand.
Okay, so what's in the pot right now? Like, should I call?
What do you mean?
If I were to raise, like in other words, what would be the
It would
raised
basically
pot
put
right
you
now?
all in.
Got a raised pot?
It would basically put you all in.
139.8.
That wouldn't put me all in. I had 210 before, 220 before then. Yeah.
I don't think people are gonna play a flop when you make a 139. you'd be surprised what I'd do.
Lex is trying to get some protection, and Scott's angling to be able to see a flop. Vanessa's trying to figure out what hands Lex would cold call shove with.
Repot.
Vanessa pots it. Daniel folds.
You said you had like 215.
Something like that before the hand.
They did send in the cooler. They called it in.
I think Scott's posturing a bit. Don't think he can really call or raise. He might be just trying to make Vanessa and Lex sweat for the fun of it.
So nonchalant. I couldn't have been happier to snap you off. It's really, really, really nonchalant.
Scott folds. And Lex is in for the rest of his.
Do we show? I mean, do we have to show? Yeah, show.
Hold on a second there, buddy. This is a cash game, and Lex doesn't have to show till the end if he doesn't want to.
What?
Gotta give Vanessa credit. She made the right read and made the right move to isolate Lex, and now she's in a great spot to bust him and win a huge pot.
Lex is all in as it's pair versus pair. Queen 7 Jack.
I flopped the joint. Dang. Had a feeling too.
Daniel would have flopped the ace high flush.
The nuts. The absolute nuts.
Wow.
It's an amazing spot.
Spade will be no help to Lex. Vanessa's got him nutted.
I'm not saying it's bad. I'm just saying as it turned out.
Lex is dead to a 6.
Oh, I would have had the nuts.
The turn gives Vanessa a set and a pot worth nearly 100 grand. And a meaningless 3 on the river.
Yeah, you ruined. They had this all planned, and you were just supposed to call.
Sorry, what do you want from me? There's so much in there. It looks so good.
First National Bank at Daniel just handed 100K to Lex to stay in the game.
Never folding 10s ever again in that spot.
You didn't have 10s.
No, I just had deuce 4. Just for the fun of it, I did all this. Just to torture me? Yeah, just to torture you.
While the boys chat it up, it's Vanessa that's stacking more chips and adding to her profits. The big game is just heating up. More from Las Vegas coming your way after this. Welcome back to the big game where loose cannon Aaron Jensen has been saying, I raise and I call, all with the hopes of enjoying the day. He says, I do.
My name is Aaron Jensen, and I'm from Seattle, Washington. Well, the first hand of Texas Hold'em I was ever dealt was in my buddy's pickup truck at Lake Havasu. We were just partying it up. He's like, I'm gonna teach you this game. We played a few then, and then a little bit later, another friend of mine told me about online poker and introduced me to some books. So like all my hobbies, I dove right in. I've got a fiance. We've been engaged for about a year and change, and we've been saving up for the wedding. Our goal has always just been to throw a good party. I mean, the wedding part of it is just, it's just a title change. She kind of has the same philosophy. She just wants to have a good time. If we're gonna spend all that money, she wants it to be a memorable night. So I want to plan that wedding and have a nice wedding for her. And this might give me some of the runway I need, but we'll see. We'll see. First things first.
Most people blame wedding delays on cold feet, but Aaron might get to blame his on a cold deck.
Remember, the loose cannon only gets to keep any profits he makes over $100,000. Right now, he is stuck 17 grand. Scott Seaver leading the way with over 240,000 in profits, and Daniel's still fuming over that last hand.
Oh, did the board pair in the river?
No.
Oh, man. Oh, I would have, the turn, she would have made 3/8. Oh, baby. Yeah, I would have doubled 3 for sure on the turn.
There's 3 spades on the board.
Hmm?
I'm not
But the
going
turn, you made a
broke
set of
there.
8s.
So? I'm not even getting to the turn. How do I even get to
Because
the
I
turn
would've-
of that pot?
You're just gonna fold to a check?
I'm checking. No, but we're multi-way.
Are you gonna fold to a check?
Someone was gonna bet something.
That would be an
Out of
aggressive
6
call.
people, there's so much in there. Someone's betting. If
do
no
you
one
feel
bets, if
that's
no
a
one bets and I get to the 8, you definitely get at least
That's what I'm
something
saying.
out of me. But you don't felt me.
I think there's too much money in there not to. The pot size bet, pot size bet. That's all I got. I only had 100 and something.
Seaver's out. King 9 suited for Brunson. Raises to 1,200.
Todd hasn't raised too often, but it's tough to get a raise through this field.
The loose cannon. He's got chips. Gets a little frisky. Raises to 4,000.
The loose cannon has gotten looser and looser as play has gone on. Clearly, this man is terrified of marriage.
Folds back over to Todd, who calls.
Todd's willing to open his range to play a pot with the amateur.
Queen, Queen 10, 2 spades. Brunson checks his straight flush draw.
It's a bad flop for Jensen to try to continue his play.
But he does, betting 6,000.
It's a great flop for Todd because he can semi-bluff a raise here if he likes.
A raise to 17,000.
By doing this, he finds out right away how strong Aaron's hand is, and even if he gets called, he's got plenty of outs. Aaron knows how tight Todd's been playing.
Jensen folds.
I thought that was going to be it right there.
Would you call my push?
Yeah.
You had a queen?
I don't know. I had to get the last bet in, actually.
So Todd takes this one down without any trouble. Joe, what have you noticed about Todd's playing style?
Well, Chris, he's playing uber-tight passive poker. Pre-flop, he's hardly ever 3-betting or opening pots, and overall, he's seen the least amount of flops here tonight. Todd seems to be waiting for really strong traditional starting hands or good spots when he thinks he has an edge.
Well, say what you want about Todd Brunson's playing style. It's working. He's up almost $50,000.
Forget solid poker. Us kids want to see people raising with junk.
Suited connectors for Brunson, and he's out. King, queen for the cannon. Raised to 1,500. Lex calls. Vanessa on the button. Also calls. All right, we're getting sloppy, guys. Come on. Daniel calls.
Negreanu with a Pee Wee Herman call.
And strikes the Seaver pose. Scott in the big blind. He looks miffed.
He's trying to figure out how he can juice this pot.
He folds.
Too good to be true spot. I mean, that one would be so good it just had to be true, right?
Scott's trying to stay limber to hold that pose for long periods of time.
Deuce 9-10. Negreanu checks middle pair. Jensen checks.
Veldhuis thinking about a semi-bluff.
Fires 4,800 with a nut flush draw. Vanessa folds.
I'm not folding to a shove.
Yeah, no, I know that already. I knew that. I knew that when the flop came. Before you even bet.
Daniel folds the best hand.
Might fold to yours, though.
Jensen's got 2 overs and a gut shot, but we know his spade outs are dead.
Jensen calls.
It's a loose call, but if he improves without hitting a spade, it'll make for a pretty strong hand.
Ooh, the Veldhuisian stare. 6 on the turn. Check by Jensen.
Lex has now got a pair to go with his draw, so he's not exactly bluffing anymore.
$4,500 to go.
Aaron doesn't have much of a draw, but it is a very small bet from Lex. Maybe confusing the loose cannon a bit.
But he calls.
Lex doesn't hate it.
The river. The queen of clubs giving Aaron top pair.
Poker's so unfair.
Check, check.
Got there.
So sick.
Aaron got a little lucky on the river there, but it put too much out there for him to be able to bet it.
Jensen wins a pot worth more than 25 grand.
Nice pot for the cannon. That one seemed to sting Lex a little bit.
That one was sick.
Unreal sick.
Unreal sick.
Our loose cannon, Aaron Jensen, takes a nice pot down, but he's still in the loss column, and his time is running out.
In the meantime, Lex just keeps on running bad. Can the young European turn things around? Find out when we return with more of the big game from Las Vegas after this. Welcome back to the big game where there's close to $1 million on the table right now. And remember, our loose cannon, Aaron Jensen, has 150 hands to turn a profit and put himself in good position for that North American Poker Tour passport. Here he leads out to 1,500. Lex folds, as does Vanessa. Daniel's out. Ace 7 for Scott Seaver.
Scott's out of position with a medium ace.
But that doesn't stop him. He raises to 5,500.
Scott's continuing to keep the pressure on the loose cannon.
Brunson folds.
Let's see how the amateur handles it. He makes a quick call. King-queen suited is a very playable hand. Time is running out.
The flop, 4-4-5, 2 diamonds. Seaver checks.
2 overs and a flush draw for Jensen.
Oh, and that's a balk. He was reaching for chips, but he checked. Jack of spades on the turn. Seaver checks. Jensen fires 5,000.
This bet may be one street late. A bet on the turn looks a lot weaker than a bet on the flop. Jensen's also a little late to build a pot if he hits his flush. Plus, he's only got 1 card to come.
Seaver calls.
Scott knows that sometimes his ace high will be good there, and he can potentially bluff the river.
Which is the 10 of spades. Seaver checks again.
Aaron checked when he had the most amount of equity in this pot. Now it looks like he's about to bet when he's got none.
Bets 12,000.
A pure bluff with king high.
I think I'm about to make such a terrible call. Like a laughably bad call. right here. I really think I'm about to. Ah. This is laughably bad.
Scott's onto something. Aaron still managed to fire 2 streets, and that looks very strong coming from an amateur.
This would be really bold.
Aaron really hasn't been looked up much, and he has gotten away with a lot.
Really, just... Yeah, really think so.
Seaver calls
King high.
and takes
Yeah,
down the
sick
pot.
call.
Nice call.
Put the caterers on hold. Aaron just took a huge hit there. And remember, he only gets to keep profits above the initial 100,000 he was staked.
You know, while Scott has gotten lucky on some other hands, right here he just made a great decision. Scott Seaver is such a dangerous player because he's capable of mixing up his play all the time, so he's impossible to predict.
And now he's up nearly 265 grand. Well, Vanessa straddles, so that means the action begins with Daniel.
She finally remembered this time.
Call
He folds. Seaver, all giggly. Pocket jacks.
It's easy to be giggly when you're up as much as he is.
Raises to 2,200. Todd folds on the button. King 10 for the cannon. He's out. Lex, suited, folds. Now the straddler. She calls.
Vanessa's made a call with a weak, unsuited ace out of position to Scott Seaver. I don't really envy her in this spot.
The flop, 9-10 king. The loose cannon would have flopped top 2 pair. Vanessa checks, Seaver checks.
Aaron's got to be kicking himself with time running short.
Board pairs on the turn. Vanessa checks. Seaver fires 2,000. And Vanessa quickly calls.
It's a pretty loose call, but Vanessa might think her ace is good here.
The river. The 8 of hearts. Vanessa checks.
Vanessa checks, so it looks like she wasn't floating the turn.
Seaver bets 5,000.
You love those 9s. Love them.
That's why I get to rep them in a spot where I don't have one.
This would be a very loose call for Vanessa. Scott did raise it up pre-flop. But when a guy's winning this much, it's hard to believe he always has it.
Was that first try? It's really good.
Well,
That chip seems reluctant to leave Vanessa's stack.
And it won't. She folds.
Just want to see it.
You want to call? I mean, there's...
Can I call with King's Full?
No.
All right, never mind then.
It's Scott's world. We all just playing it. Will his heater continue? I wouldn't bet against it. Come on back to see what happens next in the big game. Welcome back to the big game, where we just saw our loose cannon, Aaron Jensen, get called down by Scott Seaver with only ace high. How did he make that hero call? Let's find out as we go behind the poker face.
So the hand right before this big ace-7 hand, Aaron had just won a decent-sized pop with king-queen off Lex, and then he opened the next hand, and I thought his range might have been a little looser because he was happy with having the chips. I looked down at ace-7 and thought this is a really good hand to 3-bet, and I thought I'd just take it down pre-flop a lot. And then, much to my chagrin, Aaron called, and so I went to the flop. So the flop was 4-4-5 with a flush draw, and I decided to check, and Aaron decided to check back. And at this point, I thought he definitely didn't have any of the medium pocket pairs like 7s or 8s because I think he would bet them. And I didn't think he'd get any of the big pocket pairs because I was really confident he would 4-bet them pre-flop. So the turn came a jack, and I checked again because I thought that's a card that Aaron definitely might hit a lot of the time. A lot of his hands, I think, are maybe ace-jacks, king-jacks, or queen-jacks. And Aaron bets
5,000.
So I really, at this point, just thought he had 2 cards between 10 and king. Maybe has a jack as one of them, but I really thought he didn't. So I called the bet. And the river is a 10. And I'm thinking this is a terrible card because half of the hands I beat now in my head, I no longer beat. And really the only hand at all that I beat is king-queen. So I check, thinking I'm just going to give up, but he bets 12,000. And I'm just thinking to myself that this is just the next bet in his line of bets in this spot. And he'd been very aggressive in this spot. And I feel that in his head, had he had a jack, he would have bet more on the turn. And I didn't think he was going to be betting a 10 here for value. So I really just assumed at the time that the only hand he could have possibly had was king queen. So it took a while for me to convince myself, but I manned up and made the call, and luckily I was right.
Scott somehow put Aaron on the one hand he could beat, and he was right. He hasn't been wrong much this week, and he's on pace to be one of the biggest winners we've ever had on the big game.
So yes or no, another round after this?
Sure.
Yeah, why not? Let's gamble.
Okay.
Aaron Jensen will be on the straddle this hand.
You guys want to play for it instead of?
No, straddle's good.
Okay.
What the hell?
But then no straddles, I mean. So no straddling.
Straddle's more fun.
That's what you think.
Lex folds.
Lex has proposed that they make it the bigger game.
How about a big hand for Vanessa? Cowboys
2,000.
raises to $2,000.
Daniel's got a version of his favorite hand.
On the button. Re-raises to 6,000. Scott folds. Todd folds. The cannon's out.
4 of these still equals 100, right?
I just see 2, 4,
Yeah, do your
5,
thing.
15, 19.
Vanessa, again, just wanting to check out her implied odds in Daniel's stack. Clearly deciding whether she wants to smooth call and slow play or raise it up right here.
It's just a smooth call.
All right.
Vanessa's had 2 very profitable hands with aces. Let's see how her kings fare.
2 to the flop. 10-6 jack. 2 hearts. Russo checks. Daniel checks middle pair.
Daniel doesn't bite.
Another jack on the turn. Vanessa checks. And Daniel checks.
From the way he played it pre-flop by re-raising, he's gotten 2 free cards.
8 of spades on the river.
Let's see if Vanessa's finally going to try to extract some value from her kings.
7,500.
She makes it 7,500 to go. Daniel calls, and Vanessa wins.
I guess I got away cheap. Yep.
Daniel thinks Vanessa maybe could have gotten some more out of him.
I was going to bet more if you checked. I was going to bet 15. I really was.
Vanessa takes a pot worth 29 grand.
She folds for 15. You win the hand.
Oh, yeah. She's going to check fold for 15 on the river.
So Vanessa continues to get good returns on her strong starting hands. And will return with more Power Poker after this.
I mean, it's obviously appealing to have a player like the loose cannon at the table who, A, can't leave the table with any money unless he makes more than the money he sits down with, and B, doesn't have very much experience playing at these stakes in the first place. So those 2 factors combined mean a lot of equity for the professional players at the table, and it was enough of a reason to convince me to play.
Oh, all the pros drooling over that cannon money. We continue on with the big game where Vanessa has been on a tear ever since she doubled through Tony G on hand 4. And as we start hand 107, she's up nearly 190 grand. Jacks for the cannon.
Aaron's now got a short stack to go with his short experience. Let's see how he handles it.
Raised to 2,500. Lex folds. 10-9 suited for Vanessa. She calls. Daniel's out. Seaver folds. Todd on the straddle.
Todd straddled his hand, so he does have some money invested.
25?
And he folds.
Aha, the pump fake. With 2 cards lower than Aaron's jacks, Vanessa's going to need a lot of help from the board.
8 Jack King. Jensen flops a set.
We could see some action here. Vanessa's flopped a pretty big draw.
Aaron fires 4 grand.
How much do you have total?
50-ish.
hate those questions.
Even though Aaron's flop middle set, his equity is decreased slightly after the flop due to Vanessa's open-ender.
And she calls. The turn, the 4 of hearts.
With hearts and straight draws out there, Aaron would do well to make Vanessa pay to continue to draw.
15.
And Aaron makes it 15,000 to go.
Aaron's given Vanessa the wrong odds to draw to her straight.
Vanessa folds, and Aaron wins a decent-sized pot.
Any smaller than that, and I think she might have called.
Well, Joe, it seems like Aaron's won his fair share here this week.
Well, the numbers don't lie, Chris. The problem is when he's winning, it's just not keeping up with his losses. We can see that he's still down over 29 grand with just 33 hands left to turn a profit.
I don't think I've won a pot against him.
I know I was going to give you this one. No, I'm just kidding. That was for me. You don't get it?
No, I did.
Never mind.
You don't like it when people ask how many chips you have? Do you have a problem with the way that I asked right there? You think that's inappropriate?
No, I just could see it, but I guess you could.
I really can't. So I'm like literally not gonna ask unless I don't know.
No, it's fine. You're allowed.
No, I know. I'm just saying if you're gonna make a smirk, you usually have a reason.
Okay, it's fine to ask. What do you think about etiquette about when somebody says? Because I think it's a good point. Because I've been thinking a lot, obviously, after that hand against Phil Ivey, where he just soul crushed, snapped me with the 5 deuce, and he asked me how much I had left.
Yeah.
If I really think if I wouldn't have replied, he wouldn't have made that move.
Yeah, you don't have to reply. You don't have to say a word. If someone asks you how you have, you don't have to move.
Phil has never replied in his life in that spot.
Remember that time on High Stakes when I kept asking Mimi how many chips she had, everybody kept answering? And I'm like, will you guys shut up? I'm not talking to you. I'm talking to Mimi.
Yeah, he wanted to get her to count it. I remember.
But, so you never heard him?
No, I mean, I asked him like 5 hands in a row just for like the fun of it.
Who had Ivy?
Yeah.
Daniel has raised. Scott calls.
The 5th time I asked, and he doesn't answer in time. He takes his entire stack, stacks them up in front of me like this, and goes, "Can you see it now?"
I go, pissed, right?
I go, yeah. I could see it over there. How much do you have?
Big jerk.
Leave it to Scott Seaver to be the one guy on the planet who likes needling Phil Ivey.
The loose cannon on the straddle re-raises to 10,000.
Aaron Jensen has made a very aggressive play from the straddle, especially with a raise and a call in front of him, but he does have the best hand.
Daniel calls.
I think at this point, Scott knows not to ask Daniel how much he's got.
Beware.
With Daniel's call, Scott's got better odds to call Jensen's re-raise, even though he is dominated.
Scott does make the call.
I know these guys are pros, but the word spew comes to mind calling this big of a re-raise.
A big flop for the loose cannon right here, which is 9-7 king, 2 diamonds. Seaver checks his gut shot. Jensen pushes all in with ace high.
Now I'd like to know exactly what that is.
Very strong move from the loose cannon. Somehow, even though completely dominated, Daniel has flopped his only live card, and it's the best hand.
60,600.
Loose cannon, Aaron Jensen's at risk for all of his chips, and he's remarkably calm. Looks like Daniel thinks there's a real shot his 9 is best.
Daniel calls. And Seaver folds.
All right.
Once or twice, it's up to you.
Once is fine. Okay. I think you got me.
Run it once, he says. Let's get it over with.
Good luck.
Thank you.
Aaron needs to catch a card or his big game journey is over.
One time.
This is for the wedding right here. Ace or queen. Ace or queen for a beautiful wedding.
Aaron's wedding will either be at the Four Seasons or the 4-H.
Be a good wedding. Yep. Decent amount here.
Yeah, if you raise livestock.
The turn.
Ace on the turn.
5 of diamonds.
Come on.
Diamond.
Where is it?
Can I replace one of my cards with a diamond?
As long
Yeah,
no.
you can.
How much are you willing to pay for that?
Hey, you can take mine. You can take my diamond.
Aaron needs a queen or an ace, or his queen will be kicking his ace.
The river card for Aaron Jensen. The 6 of diamonds.
Sorry, brother.
Diamond.
All right. Just playing with you.
Hey, good playing with you, man.
Yeah, good playing with you
You
guys.
played really well.
It's my second cannon so far.
So Daniel crushes another dream. Find out who fills the cannon seat when we come back. Welcome back to the big game, where Daniel Negreanu has just busted our loose cannon and crushed his dream of having an opulent wedding. Right now, Aaron's with Amanda.
All right, Aaron, the dream is over. How are you feeling? I know you're not feeling good.
You know, it's I could have waited for a better spot probably, but you know, it is what it is.
Overall, are you satisfied with the way you played?
I think I played all right.
But you think you could have picked a better spot?
Yeah, probably. I had a little bit more room and you know, a couple more hands left, but yeah.
Well, good luck.
Thank you
Thanks
much.
for being our loose cannon.
You bet. It was a blast.
Thanks, guys. Time to check in on the cannon standings.
There they are. It looks like that $63,000 mark set by Nadia Magnus is going to be quite the challenge for our online qualifiers to surpass.
Well, right now, Aaron's seat is being filled by a very familiar face. It's the one and only Unabomber himself, Phil Locke.
With his buy-in at 100K, there's now almost 1.2 mil on the table.
Welcome to the game, Mr. Locke. Looks literally like you just woke up.
I
kinda.
did. I was asleep in the green room, 100%. As I was waking up out of a restful sleep, he was busting.
The weird part is that Phil Locke was sleeping in the green room, but no one even asked him to come by today.
Ace queen for Lex.
Would you buy 100?
Raises to 1,500. Vanessa folds.
So since I was asleep, I don't know who's steaming or who's on a rhythm.
Lex is steaming.
You're steaming? Okay.
Todd is steaming. Scott is just plays like he's steaming.
Don't you mean steam rolling the table? Scott re-raises to 5,200.
You got to wonder about how self-aware Scott Seaver is. Daniel mentions he's playing like he's steaming, then he re-raises with 8 high.
Action folds back to Lex.
Now we're back to the guy who I don't think is really steaming, though he is losing.
Veldhouse calls. The flop. 6 king ace. Lex checks top pair.
Lex is going to continue to let Scott steam bet.
Scott fires 8,000.
Pretty easy call for Lex.
And there it is.
He lets Scott keep repping a big hand, and he plays it safe.
The turn. Trip aces for Lex.
This is a good card for Lex in more ways than one. It improves his hand and gives Scott even more reason to try to rep one himself.
Lex is checked over to Seaver, who bets 20,000.
And Scott fires 20,000 into the abyss. I believe this is what the kids call a punt.
Lex calls.
Lex is going to have to decide on the river if Scott will fire again or if he should lead out and risk tipping Scott off.
The river, the queen of clubs, giving Lex a full house. Lex checks.
How much do you have?
Oh man, this could get brutal for Seaver if he's thinking about making a play.
Can you break down the yellows? Just because they're random.
Scott Seaver might be riding out this bluff like George to the Hamptons.
Thank you. Check's good.
Try real good for Lex.
It's ironic that Scott wasn't steaming this hand, but he probably will be now.
Lex wins a pot of nearly 68 grr.
When you play with fire.
Pocket sixes got screwed, huh?
Kings.
yeah, that's it. Supposed to claim just right under. Ace-6.
So Lex actually gets to win one on the river here, and as you can see, he's been playing super aggressive here tonight and ranked first for some important stats we're watching. But when it comes to showdowns, he is the worst of it over 2/3 of the time.
But not that time.
The cooler, it's so hard by Lex. Brutal.
Coolered?
They called in the cooler.
Even after getting caught red-handed, Scott Seaver still can't manage to tell the truth. Never seen someone lie so much about their hands.
I'm telling you the truth when I say Scott has king 4 suited.
I don't even know if I can believe you.
He raises to 1,000. Just look at the screen, pal. Action folds over to Lex. He calls. Vanessa, king 10 suited. She calls. And Daniel's in.
They know where they're going.
Oh, and he's humble, too.
4 to the flop, which is queen deuce 5.
Lex's flop best again with top pair of queens.
Goes check, 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 check. Jack of clubs on the turn.
Lex turns the best hand, but Vanessa's picked up an open-ender.
And she fires 2,500. Daniel folds. Scott folds. And Lex calls.
Playing cautiously worked for Lex last hand. I'd say he's taken a similar line.
The river gives Lex his second straight full house. Vanessa checks.
Lex has to value bet, but I'd say there's not much of a chance Vanessa will look him up. But that's why it's Lex's job to come up with whatever number will get her to commit more money to this pot, and not mine.
How's 16-4?
Vanessa hasn't insta-folded. What Lex has done here is made a very big overbet to make it look like a bluff. Still going to be a tough call for her with king high.
Lets it go. Lex picks up another decent pot.
I don't know what you had or anything, but when you called the turn, I decided that you were going to bet big on the river, like way over bet. I just had that feeling. You know how come? Because you talked to me about poker a lot, so I figured it made a lot of sense.
So Lex takes down the final 2 pots of this show, but the story continues to be Scott Seaver and Vanessa Russo, who have turned huge profits.
Daniel knocked out the loose cannon Aaron Jensen and fought his way back to even, and Phil Locke has joined us in the loose cannon stead.
Well, we've played our last hand of poker tonight, and sadly, we saw the end of our loose cannon, Aaron Jensen. But our table is loaded, and there's over $1 million still in play. So expect fireworks tomorrow night. I'm Amanda Leatherman saying goodbye for now, and remember, if you've got the cash and the guts, there's always a seat open at the big game. See you next time.
For Joe Stapleton, I'm Chris Rose. See you tomorrow night.
I'm doing very good. They woke me up in the green room. They pulled me out here.
You're supposed to be like watching everyone see how they're playing.
I know. That was why I was in the green room, to try and watch it.
You're supposed to be watching Lex. He's the new guy.
Lex and Scott keep having hands, you know? They keep getting involved. Scott's getting involved with everybody, really.
Me? No, I just play the cards.
It was fun. I had a good time. I mean, I got to play a good number of hands, and I have a story now.
The preceding was a presentation from PokerStars.com.